Hello everyone, this is Devlina, your host, welcoming you all to an exciting and power packed episode of Icons Behind Brands. And I'm thrilled to announce our guest for today, a powerhouse of energy and knowledge. She has over 26 years of experience in partnering brands and businesses in India and have worked with across categories on leading brands with multinational and local brand. To name a few, ITC, Hamdard, Tata Steel, Imami, ZTV, Pepsi, Airtel, and many more. She also has a rich experience in across markets of India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, South Africa, and Kenya. I welcome Ms. Suman Verma, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Hamdard Laboratories. A warm welcome to you, Suman.
Thank you so much.
So I would love to know. I'm so excited with this particular episode, and I would love to know about your background and journey, Suman. I mean, over the period of time, what are the changes you have seen, challenges you have seen? So we would love to know that.
Okay. Let me just begin by saying that I didn't join the industry keeping in mind that I was going to be an advertising marketing professional. So I think in life, I always know what I don't want to do, but I don't really know what I want to do. So that's where my journey began. Um, so while I was studying, I think a stage show or a play that I had seen in Calcutta, which was called The Children of the Lesser God. It sort of mesmerized me so much that I was determined that I had to learn sign language because that was a tool of communication. And I used to study in St. Xavier's College, and right across our street was oral school for deaf kids. And one day I gathered enough courage to walk up to them and I said that, look, I'd love to come and teach. And they looked at me and they said I was one scrawny little thing, and they said that but you talk too much, how would you communicate with them? And I said that, well, you give me a chance because I'm here to learn what is called sign language, and I didn't know anything much about that. And that's how my whole journey in the world of communication began, because the non-verbal communication to me was such a powerful way of trying to understand how the not so privileged knew how to communicate, right? And I think over a period of time after I graduated and I went to do my master's, I still taught them. So in all, I had worked for 3 years with them, and I thought I was teaching them, but in turn, I realized that they taught me. The kids taught me so much. The whole power of resilience, the ability to conquer the world, to be able to dance to the sound waves that they get when they're dancing on a wooden floor. It was amazing. It was so powerful. And it just sort of always made me feel that, we are under leveraging ourselves because these guys have so much potential. And I think one thing led to another. And I was in front of the manager in JWT Calcutta because, again, I had seen a play, and my friends used to work there, and they said that, oh, you have to come and see this person. He's so good. His communication skills are fantastic. I think by then I had realized that communication is something that I really was interested in. And I think a chance meeting led to me joining JWT. And it was almost like the non-verbal communication now had to be complemented with the verbal communication. And that's how my journey began. So even before I had passed out of university, I was working with JWT. And I thought, because I was quite good in fine arts, so I said, let me do a design course that may just sort of help me. And I was still not sure what I wanted to do in JWT, but I thought maybe I wanted to be an art director. And I tried something, dabbling with it. And that is something that I learned in life, that people who have no experience, no knowledge, are the ones who give you the maximum input, and you want to smash them that time. And then I sort of found my place and I joined account management, and then there was no looking back. So I sort of continued my journey with JWT for 23 years. And yeah, that was really, and no amount of, I think I worked on fantastic brands, so I worked for a very long time with ITC. I think I worked about 18 years with them. I felt more ITC and less JWT because I think, I spent my living times with them, and it was absolutely the most fantastic ride because they were an amazing client. And and then, of course, in Calcutta, I did a lot of brand building out there with small, mid-sized, and everything. But I think uh, quite early on in life, I realized that there's nothing called a small client and a big client. A big client perhaps has more money to spend, has is more structured, and has a lot more knowledge sharing to do, and versus a local client who may be wanting to spread the wings. They give you a lot more bandwidth to play with. So I really had a great ride with them. So yeah. And I think, after having done that bit in advertising, I got a chance to work with my client. So Hamdard has been my client also for 15 years. And yeah, so, when I decided to do something different, I had two or three of my clients saying that, come and join us. And I think I was so passionate about their brands that, you know, I was lucky, I must say. So yeah, I didn't want to stop at that. So I said that now I wanted to try my hand at the board, because women representation in the boards now in corporate world has become exciting. So I joined the board. I also work with the Sherry Blair Foundation, which is for business entrepreneurs. So I am an alumni mentor there. And I also work with an outfit which is called Beyond Boundaries. This is a part of, a Mauritian government and Australian High Commission. They do this mentorship program, so I'm part of that. So I quite enjoy that, actually. It's great. There's some learning to be done at every given point in time.
It's really inspiring, Suman, to know you since you have started. I was actually mesmerized the way you took us through about your journey and how it has started. And I mean, it's really inspiring. And for me, the takeaway is like you can learn from anywhere. You actually have to go to some unconventional way, and you need to find out a way to learn the things in a different way, like how you have identified this is the sign language I want to learn. And this is very unconventional, I mean, you just went and you learned, and it's a different things. I mean, apart from the words, you learn different things.
I think so. I think those, I mean, because I grew up in Calcutta, and Calcutta is a city where theatre plays a very important role in people's lives. So I was quite, a theatre person. So given a choice to between watching a movie and going and watching a theatre, I'd much rather go and see theatre. So I think I must have been 19 or 20 when I saw this play called Children of Lesser God. And I still remember that it just sort of, I went back and saw it thrice in that same week. And I really couldn't get over the fact that, there was something like this that one could conquer. And then when I started working with those people and those kids, I realized that sign language was just one thing. When you watch young kids, and I wasn't really dealing with very young kids, I was dealing with people who were 16 and 17. They were perhaps closer to my age group because I must have been 19 at that time. I was so taken aback that, these people had so much zest for life. There was so much willingness to learn, and the resilience that they had. I think that was something that we all needed to learn. At least I feel that I learned a bit from that. To me, that was a great learning point, that, we are forever so ungrateful to God for what we have. But when you see people like that and they're so full of gratitude and they're so full of life, I think it's a way to live life. I hope now when I retire, I do something with the deaf kids.
Definitely. And that is
Yeah.
what was running in my mind, that we have so much potential within us. We are blessed with each and everything, and being normal, I think, is the biggest blessing. And this you realize when you go and see the environment which you have seen, and you just see the enthusiasm of them
Yes.
life, and then you feel like, what am I doing? Like, you are blessed with everything, you have each and everything. Go and use your
Yeah, sure.
powers.
I agree. I agree.
So Suman, you have worked with many big brands, like amazing
Sure.
brands. So I would love to know, what is your most memorable campaign of your career and why it is so?
You know, I'm not sure that in 26 years a campaign could alone be a yardstick for saying what is the most memorable, because something worked at that point in time and that's memorable, right? I think for me, it's the experience, the journey that I've gone through with a certain brand. That is very memorable because that led to creating campaigns that were different. I'd love to, I mean, we'd all love to say that we've done big brands and big everything, but this is something that stayed with me forever, and therefore I'd love to say this. So I remember that JWT had a sister concern and it was folding up in Calcutta. So one brand was given to me as a continuity brand that I could take it and develop it, right? So when you're working in an agency, I'm talking at least of those days, we would evaluate the client on the size of the money that he was pumping in, whether it was in the terms of retainer fee, the stature of the client, and everything. So when you are in Calcutta and you're working with ITC, there isn't a client bigger than that, right? Because it's really, really big. And so I remember that I was given a brand, and it was a local jewelry brand. And I think the retainer fee those days were just ₹1,00,000. And I was told that here is an opportunity that you can make it big. And the USP of this client is that he loves good work and he wants to win awards. So I mean, for an agency person, this is like a dream client. It doesn't matter how much money he's paid, as long as he's hungry for great work. So I remember having gone and met this client, and he sized me top to toe, and he was a Bengali jeweler. He looked at me and he thought I was too anglicized and all of that, and I wouldn't get anything of Bengali. But little did he know that I could dream in Bangla, I could speak in Bangla, and I could sing in Bangla. So I said, okay, fine, we'll come back and we'll do it. And he gave us a brief. And I think what we came back, and it still is one of my favorite campaigns, because we decided, and what we had done was that we did a cross-pollination. Now, mind you, the jewelry client that was being handled in Calcutta I was the account head, my creative partner was a girl, my junior servicing person was a girl, and the art director was a girl. So we were an all-girls team, and we just decided that, we understand women better, we know exactly what is wrong with your campaign, and we're going to come and give you what is going to make a difference. And we realized that this client had a lot of hunger for wanting to do great work. Now, every time we came back and we felt that, in Bangla, everything was sounding very soft. And we wanted to do a slightly disruptive, slightly, a campaign that would get you the eyeballs that we needed. And the client was very clear, right? His objective was that your advertising should drive footfalls into my store. The rest, we'll take care of it. But we hated his designs. We didn't like what he had on the store. But we said, if our job is to get the people in here, then so be it, right? So, after having gone through a lot of rough brainstorming. I think at that time that this is where I take credit for it, is that I said that let's try and do a Virginia Slims campaign on a jewelry brand. Now, if you see what Virginia Slim is, it's a cigarette brand, and it was absolutely uber stylish, right? And they said, and the way people said about Virginia Slim was that if a young girl is going out on a date or she's going out partying and she doesn't know what she wants to wear, then you have to look at some of the advertising of Virginia Slims to know exactly how to put yourself together, because they were so stylish, right? So we said, okay, fine, we're done. We're going to do a Virginia Slims on this jewelry campaign, which meant that we were going to change a lot of things in the advertising for this particular client, because this was a client catering to very middle class audience, because the value for money bit was there, and obviously they were used to seeing nice, traditional, good looking, plump women on the advertising. So, and I said, okay, fine. We did a campaign where we gave the girl short hair, and she had almost hair like mine. And he didn't know how to say no to me. And he kept saying, everything is nice, but she can't have hair like this. I said that means you're telling me that my hair is so bad that she can't be like this. But trust me, she's going to be a head turner for you. And, he sailed with us, and he said, okay, I'll take that risk. And overnight, we had campaigns which were plastered all over. And I don't know if people understand what I'm going to say in Bangla. The whole campaign was, Cheno ki amai. Do you know who I am? Very loosely put, right? So this one was, the whole campaign was about, do you know who I am? And it said, because we were doing this campaign on astral gems. So we said that, how Linda Goodman would talk about that if you're a Libran, then you're like this. If you are a Gemini, then you're all of that. So we sort of were inspired a bit by Linda Goodman and Virginia Slims. And we said, this has to be really something that gets the eyeballs, and, we must get talked about. But trust me, we had the girl in short hair. The girl was a little chubby and cute and very fresh, and she looked almost non-Bengali. And, overnight, I think we got talked about. The client couldn't handle the way things were happening at his store. And I think that one campaign changed the fortune for us and for him. For us, because I think his faith and belief in us worked. And for him, it was like, the power of advertising was understood by him. And I think we had a great run with him. So that, to my mind, was one. And I do remember that in IIM Calcutta, it was a case study of sorts to say how a local brand had become, looking so global in its thinking and the way it was looking. So, yeah. So that, of course, to my mind, that small thing had become so big. So that was very exciting. Other than that, I mean, I've worked on Wills Made for Each Other. So that has been my first love. So I worked for a very long time. And it was almost iconic campaigns that we did. I worked on World Cup cricket. That was full of fun and full of interesting anecdotes for me. So it was not just a campaign, but the whole journey itself was so exciting.
Oh,
So yeah.
super. I really like the concept of fusion, which you made it. I mean,
Yes.
particular jewelry
Yes.
brand, and this is the uniqueness of any marketer. The kind of creativity you put it together, taking inspiration from different places, different brand, and
Yes.
conventional, way.
Yes.
You just went
Yes.
very unconventional way, and you did it. So I really, it was really exciting, and I was actually visualizing the whole story through your words. as like the big campaigns and the big advertisement put it together. So there is a chaos in the market, right? The advertising is too much everywhere out there, like if you consider digital or in the offline, everywhere. So how to avoid that chaos in the market, and especially in this cluttered marketing space, how a brand can stand out?
I mean, this is a classical, I think, debate that's happening everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's not something very new, or for anybody in that matter, that, if you've been dabbling with brands, you realize that there are a couple of things that decide uh, what's going to work, right? But for me, there are three things that goes without saying that always works. Work which is based on insight, a consumer insight, okay? Uh, if that creative storytelling is done based on an insight, it's bound to connect, right? There's just nothing that can really change it. Disruptions work like mad, right? Because disruption also needs to have the power of creativity to be able to cut through the clutter, right? So that's an important thing that you do it. And you know in today's world, it's even more important that who are we targeting? Because if something is for everybody, it's not. You need a lot of media spends, and I think most marketing people are now dabbling with media constraints. So I mean, with budget constraints. So knowing laser targeting is very important, and in that respect, digital has come and really changed the way one can really look at it, because good work, great storytelling, good content, and complete precise targeting helps in reaching the consumers that we have to do. But again, today when you talk of it, consumers also have become so widespread, right? So there is one that's sitting in Bharat audience, somebody who's your mainstay. Then there are different things that you have to look at it. I think that juggle is what you have to really get that right. So yeah, so very to sum that up, and I would still say disruptions work, insightful work, great storytelling, emotions work a lot. So there's no running away from any of these things for sure. Yeah, and it does help in connecting. I mean, I have worked recently in during the pandemic. I was working on a campaign for a brand, for my existing brand, Safi. Uh, Very disruptive, I must say, because end of the day we were trying to sell a blood purifier, and we did a campaign which is, what does a blood purifier basically essentially do? It sort of purifies your blood, keeps your skin, nice, bright, and happy, and it takes care of your acne. And all of this gives you confidence, right? So the whole story was on confidence, and at no point did we want to leave the brand story out of it. So we did a campaign right now, which is called Sachai Andar Achai Bahar, which is the product truth. And this work of ours has gone on to connecting with the millennials. It has connected with the many consumers. We've won awards on the Brute platform. We won awards with influencer marketing that Dainik Jagran did for us. So I'm not saying that awards are very big for us, but the fact that you win awards only when your work is liked and recognized by people, right? So from that perspective, I think we managed to do it, and we didn't spend a lot of money. That's the beauty of it. So I think content was important, and because it was a digital campaign, and we all know it that in digital today, content is the king. So if your content is correct, it's bound to work. So yes, it did.
That is the beauty of creativity. It's not that you have to spend a lot of money. It's like, I mean, thank you for bringing those precise point here, like laser targeting your target audience first, and understanding about who you are
Yes.
target, and then their insights and based on your insights, the storytelling, and that is how you connect. So really,
Sure.
the point, and through disruption, how you make it so creative to cut the clutter and you reach out to them.
Yes.
So
Yes.
thank you for bringing those precise point, which is very important. Our audience are a mix of, the B school student, aspiring brand managers, a lot of people who are about to start their career. I think these points are very valuable for them.
Sure.
So, what are your thoughts on the fast evolving marketing ecosystem? We spoke about digital, and you have seen the time where there were only print and the offline marketing. So, what are your thoughts in this fast evolving marketing system?
I don't think there's a thought. We are all, as marketing people, everybody is on their toes. The metaverse world, to mobile marketing, to your print, to your television, to your influencer marketing. I think, these have really come, and this sort of hitting on your eyes that you have to try out a few things to know what is working for your brand, because everything is not going to work for everybody. But yes, I think digital to a great extent has been a black box of sorts for the marketing people, because everybody today is talking digital, but do we really all understand it like we understood print, like we understood television? I think it's a question of yes and no, because I think while you get the numbers that this many clicks and this many hits have happened and this many impressions, the ROI is equally important, because right, because if this is the mainstay of your communication marketing, then it has to give you results. Earlier, it was quite easy to track, because you would say that, I've put in 5 crores on television, 10 crores on print, and 5 on outdoor. So now let's see the number of footfalls that have happened and how many products got sold. So it was that way of doing it. Here, the universe is large. Then the second thing is that there are a lot of people who still haven't understood what digital is doing. So they all say that, but I opened Facebook and I don't see the ad. Little do you realize that there is an algorithm. There is, you may not be in that age bracket. You are not perhaps the audience for that brand. So it's not TV that you opened and between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock you'd see your ad, right? So it's quite challenging to explain it to a lot of people. And when I'm saying this, it's also that it's not just the marketing team or the sales team, it's also your distributors, your stockists, your wholesale dealers, because everybody has a phone in their hand and everybody has a Facebook on their account, but ye ad wahan nahi aaya. They don't get it that you're not perhaps a part of that algorithm.
And it's very tough to explain the algorithm thing.
It's very difficult to tell them. So I still remember one of these days, I was just sitting and I said, I'm going to have a chat with one of these guys and tell them. So I said, when you opened an account, did you say that skincare, herbal, natural products, organic products are what you like? So did you put a tick to that, right? So he was like, no, that's not my area. So I said, good. So did you say that you were between 18 to 21? So he said that, no, I'm 56. So I'm like, how to tell you, man, you are so way off the laser targeting that you're trying to do. You're not going to be a part of my work.
And if it is going to you, that means the targeting is not done. If that is...
Yes, then it's not happened. So the safest way to now do it is that while we do what we do, please plug your brand in YouTube, so that if he has any doubts, at least he can say this is the brand he's searching for, and it comes up there, and then he's happy and he can take the link from there and share it with whoever, right? Otherwise, everybody is so confused where digital is concerned. I mean, I'm just talking of people in general. So It's a tough one.
Yeah, and the way it is evolving, and digital is fast and very vast. Uh,
Yes, that's the thing.
with
That's rightly
Facebook,
put. It's
yeah.
it's yes, it's so vast. And the other thing is that how do you explain? And when I'm saying all this, I'm only talking about our people who are going to be able to aid sales, right? It's an important tool for them because the sales heads have to pass it on to their so-called stockists and other people. So he said the brand is being advertised in Instagram, and Instagram is one platform which gives you the best organic growth. They don't get that. So Instagram, उसमें कुछ लिखा ही नहीं है. It's only a photo. So how do you do that? So what is a print ad? A print ad is nothing but a photo. But the very fact that it stays on a newspaper can be carried by that person from home to his shop, and then he can show it to 10 more people is easier understood rather than saying, oh, dikha to tha Instagram pe, now I don't see it. So it was there and now it's not there. So I think it's a very difficult one to explain to people that. So this is going to take a little bit of time for people to get it. But I think for us, and I must say that, and I keep saying this to everybody, that, while the corporates have all gone on to digital marketing and everything, for Hamdard, all this has happened only during the pandemic, right? So we got onto e-commerce when the pandemic hit us. We got onto e-consultations, medical, during the pandemic. We started advertising during the pandemic. And for us, the whole difference came when we started seeing results, right? When you do a CTA linked advertising, a post, and it brings you onto your, the e-commerce site, and the next morning you have the numbers that got sold. It's an amazing way of tracking. So the efficacy. And then when the Facebook analytic tools come back and tell you whether your campaigns are work, not work, I think that is very satisfying journey, at least as a marketing person, because you have an opportunity to do course correction if something has not worked, and what has worked will give you results then and there. Because the moment you're geo-targeting and stuff like that, and you've identified these were the markets, this was the age group, this is the profile of the demographics that I wanted to reach out to, and end of a campaign, when you see your analytics telling you whether you delivered or you didn't deliver, there's nobody to be held responsible for other than your own self, because then that there was something that either the brief needed to be re-looked at, or your creative needed to be fine-tuned, and it's easier to do corrections on your creatives in this medium rather than when something has gone out on television, you've already bought the media space, and now you're living with it unless you truncate it. So that's a different thing.
Yeah, the exact insights give you a lot of privilege and lot of scope to study deep and
Sure.
re-strategize it better also. So
Sure.
that's a great way and tool. I mean, you cannot escape the digital part at all at this point of time, because there is so much
Yeah.
learned, so much to go back and work on your own.
Sure.
So here, how to create a mix of creativity and technologies in today's marketing world.
Technology is a medium. Creativity is art. If your art, again, is based on great storytelling, great song and dance, great narratives, great consumer behavior insights, it is bound to work, right? So I think that's one reason why people are seeking so much content. They're looking for that content, and if it connects with the TG that they're wanting to reach out to, it's going to work. So I don't think technology or medium is ever a constraint. I don't think so.
So see, it's something which complements each other. I mean, technology is,
Yeah, it does. Yes, it does.
and how we as a human, we are putting our creativity with the use of technology, that is what is going to make some difference.
Yeah, I'll tell you, for a creative person, uh, digital medium is a great technology platform. For the simple reason that earlier the constraint was that tell a story in 30 seconds, keep the brand at the heart of it, right? Uh, in the digital medium, your formats can be long also. Though now digital comes back and says if your brand can't tell a story in 5 seconds, it's not working. Then the reels have come now. Reels and short videos have become the way things are. If you I was reading somewhere that in Uttaranchal and in UP, the young kids would wake up to TikTok until TikTok went away. But so people are looking for different kind of content. So there's nothing right or wrong in it. If you can wake up smiling looking at a TikTok which is so funny, great thing, you're spreading happiness first thing in the morning. But it just depends on what you're all about. So I don't think that that, to me, as a person who has transitioned from the conventional media, the traditional advertising platforms of television, radio, print, into the digital world, I have not found that a constraint, because I feel that it's just the medium that has changed. It's not taken the creativity away at all. The brand story is told slightly differently, but that's about it.
Yeah. And I feel it's a new opportunity opened. I mean, see, we have
Yes.
time, we already have that, and now we have the technology also, and so vast, and technology is evolving. So this is again complementing each other. Only thing we
Yeah.
have to get confused with so much of options.
Yes. True. I get it.
So let's talk about personal branding, Suman. How important it is in today's scenario of brand building?
It just helps you to tell your story better about your organization, about the brand, about the product, about the credibilities that you want to attach with that you do for the company that you work on. So in that respect, I think it is it's not a bad idea to have a bit of personal branding, but overt personal branding, I'm not sure.
True.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, it helps people to connect with you better. So as a CMO, I mean, it's a senior position, it's a big position. So what are the principles do you rely upon during the toughest moment as a CMO?
I really don't have a tough time. I just enjoy what I do. So I don't know. I guess a lot of times I mean, I'm just talking, if it's a brand that I have to be working on, then I'd like to do my homework. I'd like to do a bit of spade work. I still go out and meet a lot of consumers on the road. I wouldn't just take everybody's word for granted that this is the only way to doing it. Um, because a lot of what you need to do for your brand comes from your consumer learning. So I can tell you, I mean, just to give you an example, yesterday I think I spent my entire day walking the streets of, Old Delhi, trying to understand how an auto rickshaw wala or a pushcart vendor person, what are the things that he does for his nutrition, where are the gaps in his nutrition, and how could that be bridged. Though there is a research document which has come, but the point is that a lot of times when you're talking to consumers, you get a different perspective. It just helps you to understand how your brand can be positioned in his mindset. And I think that's the biggest challenge, because marketing is not just about taking X amount of money and then amplifying your brand thought, but it's also about getting the right insight into taking your brand where it must go. So yeah. And I just feel that, as an advertising person, my biggest grudge has always been that, what does this client tell me that I don't know? I want to hear from him what I don't know about his own brand, right? So I mean, having been an ad agency person, I try not to come across like a person who hasn't said something more than what, you know, a normal brief should say. Yeah. So I do a lot of consumers. So I think that helps to get your consumer understanding. It also helps to never underestimate the your competition, because they must be doing something so right and so correct. So study them. So I do that as well.
True, true. I really liked it, the idea, Suman. I mean, the moment you said ki there is no toughest moment because I always enjoy my work. So I feel the
I
moment
do.
you start enjoying what you are doing, even if it looks tough, but you enjoy it. I mean, you do it with so much passion and intensity that it becomes your adventure. And
Yeah, that's right.
adventure is
Yeah.
also the tough part, but we choose it and we enjoy it. So I just
Yeah.
like the idea of being, how you change the perspective, and you're living that every moment in your life.
Yes. And I'll tell you, I mean, I remember that when I was working with ITC, and I worked on one particular brand for 18 years, I used to surprise myself that I could look at the brand again differently the next morning. And I think, it perhaps comes from the fact that where people talk about brands and they say brands are like people. So it is so correct that brands must be like, they must be like human beings, because you discover a different facet of that brand every morning. So you always jot down and say, okay, this is something I could explore the next time I have to do something different. So I don't know, at least that is something that I've enjoyed, and perhaps that's the only reason why I'm still in this business, or else I'd
Yeah,
be
that's
gone.
that's very insightful, Suman, because you see, this might be natural to you, but this could be a learning for many people, including me. That whether are you able to see a new angle and a different way to your brand and the kind of work which you are doing, and this is how you develop your passion, you develop your interest towards that particular brand, and when you are connected, that's when you start living that. And
So it's like a relationship, right? Every morning you will discover something new about your child, even if the child is very predictable in many ways. You could still, as a mother, say that maybe I might need to try this out with him or her to know that, it'll give me a different response from him. So it's like, you're discovering different facet, and it happens. It definitely happens. Yeah.
this example and metaphor, Suman, I mean, see, you never get bored with your child, with the relationships, right? You find
Yeah, you
always,
do.
yeah, you're always excited about the new things. Every morning you're excited about, oh my God, see, this is what they did and they're doing it. This is the new thing you discovered.
Yes, sure.
I think, I mean, it is opening a lot of, uh, doors in my mind about about the perception on particular brand and about the work and about the style as well.
No, but I think that it's not something so unique to me. This is something with anybody who stayed in the business for that long. I guess you would do that. And I mean, perhaps I'm articulating it, but that's how it would be for anyone. You start living your brand and you see it in a different light. That's about it.
Right, right. But again, I mean, people like you, when they talk about it, it actually give a lot of power to, the aspiring managers and entrepreneurs. See, me being an entrepreneur, I know, I mean, I have been living my own company from past 7 years, and I feel so excited. And even if it is Saturday or Sunday, I love to work. I mean, it's not a work for me. It's just like, I mean, it's a holiday for
You
me.
know,
I don't feel
yeah,
like work.
actually, you're so correct. Even I can be like that. I can have watched a movie till 1 in the night and still start writing something on a brand piece from 2 o'clock, and it doesn't sort of get to me. It doesn't. I'm more than happy, and unless I put it down somewhere on a piece of paper that these are the thoughts that I need to expand on, I'll just feel that I would perhaps lose my thought. So I just quickly jot it down and keep it parked aside, so that when I have the time, I'm going to write it down properly and be ready for the next day. But I do that.
Super. Even I write all my, next day work early in the, a day before in the night. And as you said, ki, even if you are getting, wake up till 1 o'clock, next day morning you can start off. It happens, it happens. And we realize when somebody else asks, ki, how can you do this? Then I'm like,
Yes.
extra we did. We are just normal. We are just doing what we are supposed to do, right?
Sure, right. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's when you reflect, okay, kuch hua hoga, probably. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Suman, with that, now we are moving to a very interesting section, which is a rapid fire round. Okay, so in this section, it is, it is an opportunity to know you as a person a little more. And you can answer either in one word or, maximum in one sentence. Yeah, so we are good to go.
Shoot.
Okay, so tell me something which nobody knows about you.
I'm Imelda Marcos. I have a passion for footwear.
Oh,
It's only those who have noticed will know that I'm passionate. Otherwise, confession.
it's you. Who knows?
Yeah, it's me.
So describe yourself in one word.
Restless person.
So what motivates you to get out of the bed in the morning?
Work, meeting more people. But yeah, work, basically work. That motivates.
Texting or talking?
Both.
Early in the morning or late in the night?
Night.
Biggest accomplishment this year?
I think I utilized the lockdown well, and I learned to do 3 courses with LinkedIn. And that, to my mind, was great because I always feel that knowledge gaps need to be filled. So I managed to do that, and yeah, so that was my biggest accomplishment. I did not waste my time.
I think, yeah, that is the key, that, learning never ends, and learning makes you
Yes.
more connected, more agile, and more young, and
Yes.
more flexible, of
True.
course.
True. Yes.
So, what is the one leadership lesson you learned on the go as a people leader?
I mean, nothing new that I learned, but it's something that I believe in, that you have to lead from the front. While delegation is great, but in today's world, you have to be able to lead. And when I say lead, just roll your sleeves and show them this is how you would do it. Because if you can show them how you would do it, others will follow. So that's how I do.
Super. And each and every answer of yours, it is, pushing me back to thinking process and then realizing, coming back again. Each and everything has so much power, and so, it is carrying so much insights for people like us. So I'm really enjoying it throughout. So what
Great.
leader would your team say that you are?
I think if you were to ask my team, they'd say I'm a taskmaster. Uh, yeah, but I think they all know that I'm a people's person, but I push them. Yeah.
It's important. It's a common goal, right?
No, since we are talking, and that this could be a handy tip for the world, the younger people in schools, I would definitely want to say this, because this is something I keep saying this to all my team members, that look, I may just sort of take you apart for not having done this work, and therefore I lead and show you this is how I want it to be done and this is how it has to be done. But do remember that I'm not saying this to make you feel small, because I'm going to be out of the system because I'm old. You're the young who's going to lead the way. So if you've not learned anything, tomorrow you shouldn't be leading an organization and not being able to build a strong second and a third line. For me, it's very important to have built a very strong second and third line, because somebody built me, right? Somebody built me. And when I was given that much responsibility and given so much of trust to be able to deliver, I pushed myself. So I want others to push themselves as well. So I think that's something everybody has to know it, because no success comes to you that easy. You have to work for that.
Right. And
So yes.
with that context, what I feel is like when you hire somebody, when you have team members, they are your responsibility as well. You just don't want
Yes.
to waste their time in the organization just to come and go. They should learn, and when they grow, when they go and join some leadership position, and you feel ki at least you have contributed on their growth, so it makes you feel so good. I mean, that is the only thing I feel is very, very
Yeah, you're still being
responsible.
kind. You're being kind. I'm very unkind. I say don't waste my time. Wasting your time is your prerogative. You can go ahead and waste your time, but then you can't waste my time. If I'm investing my time in you, you better learn. Because I think that uh, my bosses who built me are people I'm still in touch with, and I still look at them with a lot of awe, and I feel that they taught me some things. So 30 years hence, if you can still look up to those people and say, wow, they made me what I am today, you have to have that gratitude, because you pick something. That is something I think a lot of people, today's kids, are looking for shortcut. And I think that shortcut does not work. At least it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
work
yeah,
with
yeah,
me.
yeah. There is no shortcut for success. I have realized it to the core, and even I follow the same principle. I tell my team there is no shortcut. I mean, if you're working, then this is how it is. Success is keeping. I mean, it is here. You just have to go and cross the path and take it. I mean, it's for everybody. The rules are.
Sure, absolutely. Yes, I get it.
So, one key learnings that you have picked up from your team.
They have a fabulous attitude. It's always a service with a smile. That is a great quality to have.
So, one book or any podcast you would like to recommend marketers?
You know, I think your basics have to be first understood. After that, you can follow any great guru that you want to follow, right? I think your basics in marketing, your basics in advertising, whether it is, the basics from Ogilvy and Mather, that if you were to follow that, whether you follow, Jack Ma, you follow anybody, you just decide who you want to follow. But your basic principles, if you have got into knowing this is how a brand is to be built, this is how the marketing has to be done, this is how your basic principles are in place, the rest is for you to identify and say, who do you want to follow? Actually, very honestly, I feel that even our spiritual leaders, they have a lot of marketing principles they follow. Whether once somebody just told me that listen to Sadhguru. If you listen to Sadhguru, oh my God, he can be a marketing guru as well, because there are lots of basics. So you realize that there are certain fundamentals. If those are clear, you can do so much. So I really, I don't follow podcasts as much as I love to read. I feel that, my choice of books is not necessarily your choice of books. So you have to decide what is going to float your boat. But the point is that what I like is the fact that, if your basics on the principles are all understood and absorbed, then everything else that you learn is just a laddering on that. So I would do that.
Yes. So, with that, we are now out of the rapid fire round. And before we wind up the conversation, what is your message for the aspiring brand leaders? Would love to know that.
I would say that, learning never ends. So if you keep filling your knowledge gaps, and knowledge is power, end of the day, you're hired for bringing a certain skill set and your knowledge on the table. So if you're ahead of the curve, whether you're a senior or a junior, you will always be an asset to the company. And I think in today's day and time, we cannot use lack of time as an excuse for not wanting to learn some new skills, because you have Upgrad, you have LinkedIn, you have so many online courses. It's not about getting a stamp and seal from a university to say you've learned it, but the very fact that you learn something new is a very valuable tool. And there is this is the best thing, because you cannot join an organization and say, but what did I learn from there? The question to ask is, what did I give them? If you have been able to give something, you will get something. But if you've got nothing to give, you will not get anything back in return. So I just feel that knowledge is something that you have to get and give, and that's how you will grow. I remember, my mother saying when we were very young that she used to always tell us that, we worship both Lakshmi and Saraswati, but there is a difference between the two goddesses. Saraswati says, the more you learn, the more you give, the more you'll grow. And Lakshmi says that the more you get, the more you give, the less you'll have, right? So there is a difference. So you have to be Saraswati in that sense, and saying that learn knowledge as much as you can, and then share it, because you will educate somebody else and that knowledge will always grow. So yeah, I think we need to all fill the knowledge gaps that we have. So I think if I at my age can do courses, the young guns really need to go all out there and impress and say this is what they bring on the table. So that's all I can say.
Yeah, and I feel we are in the era of, I mean, it's a blessing that now we have everything available in our fingertips. As you said,
Yes.
upgrade, we have LinkedIn, and we just have to think about any particular skill or any particular course, and we can learn it from scratch within 3 to 6 months, and we
Yes, that's right. That's right.
about it. So I think it's
Yes.
an era of opportunities, and we have all the mm, privilege to avail them, and you don't have to spend
I agree with you.
to just be
100%.
there with
Yes.
an
And it's
intention.
not that you're paying through your nose either, you know.
Yeah.
So that's an amazing thing.
Yeah, and no
So,
excuses, as you said, you cannot excuse that lack of time or anything else, because you don't have, I mean, you have enough of time. Only thing you have to prioritize, this is important for you.
during the lockdown, the first lockdown, I think we all reached a stage where we didn't know what was happening to us. And just to keep our mind off a lot of things, so as a group, we all decided that, each of us is going to learn something new. And we made it mandatory. We said that, once you earn your certification, please share it, that this is what you've done. So that, you can't say that you didn't have time. You had all the time in the world, right? So we all did courses, and I did something on millennial marketing. And once, after 3 months, all of us had done these certification courses, we actually cascaded it down. And we said that whatever you've learned, you share it with us. And what I've learned, I'm going to share it with you. And I think, it was a great thing, because it just suddenly, it brought everybody on the same page. And we said that, it's great, because there was nothing called a senior teaching a junior and a junior teaching the senior. Everybody was learning, and that was an amazing learning for all of us. I think so that, to my mind, is the biggest learning, that whether you're a young person, you're an old person, as long as you're in the workplace, you need to be able to upgrade your skills. And you don't need to depend on somebody to teach you. You can't say my organization's not training me. It's not a school. You have to come prepared, right? So that's my take.
Sure. That's what, as you said, the journey of, sharing the knowledge and mentoring others and teaching others, I think that the journey, more than you give it to the people and community, you get it more. Because when
Yes,
you learn, I mean, you clear
I agree.
concept which you might have not cleared during the time of course, right?
Yes.
So amazing knowledge sharing, Suman. I think, I mean, each and every topic and point you brought here was insightful and very powerful and precise, and it is going to help a lot of people through this episode. And for me, there are a lot of personal takeaway, and I'm right after this, I mean, I'm going to churn. I know, I mean, I have so many things I have got it from this particular episode, and thank you for your time.
My pleasure. My pleasure.